Welcome back, I'm Kim Bailey and this is Floral Art Online and you're watching the Supermarket series. Today we're going to use a few different little things. We've got 3 flowers, got a bunch of sunflowers to use. We're going to use all of the 3 out of that bunch, and we're going to use an old basket that normally would have a wine bottle in it, a little bit of bubble wrap, some toothpicks, and a couple of containers. This one's obviously still got the water in it. A couple of containers as water sources for your flowers. So let's get started and see what we can do with this combination of items. So what we're going to make today to add to this design is use the stalks of the sunflowers. Now this is one that I made a few months ago now, and so it's dried quite nicely. So obviously you can keep the things that you make as part of these structures and use them in other designs. I won't use this one because it's a little bit small and we have got the fresh stalks, so we'll put all of that in. But that's the finished product. You can see where I used the toothpicks to join them, and the plant material has shrunk as it's dried, so that's just a matter of going along and trimming those off again. So let's get started. What we'll do first of all, place our water source. We want the larger one at the back and the smaller one at the front. Now the smaller one I need to lift up, so that's what we're going to use our bubble wrap for. Just push that in so that it's going to give that container something to sit on and not move around. It's more that it won't move around because I actually have to transport this design to somewhere else, and so I don't want water everywhere. And I'm actually going to use some rolled up and taped bubble wrap to secure this back one as well. Once again, just so it doesn't move when it's being transported, not for any other reason. If you weren't transporting it, you wouldn't need to do this. Okay, let's get started with our flowers. We've got a bunch of sunflowers from the supermarket. I believe there are 3 stems in here. There are. And you can see that some of those petals are falling off already. Remember that that's not a disaster. Doesn't mean that we have to do without the flowers. That in fact we could take all of the petals off and just use the inside of the flower for this particular activity. So don't discard anything that's not completely perfect, because we can always use them in some other way. So as I said, we've got the three different sizes of flowers. So what we want to think about is the actual placement of those flowers so that we know where to cut the stems so we can make our structure. So I'm thinking the big one we might have at the back as a nice focal point, and these others 2 will be graded along. I'm thinking that the smaller one is going to go along the little structure that we use so that it looks like it's climbing out and takes away from the dominance of this particular basket. So once again, we want the flowers to be the hero of the design, the arrangement, not anything else. And I think they're probably a bit too thick for me to use the knife today, so I'll just use the secateurs. And we'll cut him there. Now what I'm going to do with this one, because it's still nice and healthy, has only lost those petals at the bottom, and probably that's something to do with the fact that it's such a long stem and the water getting up into the flower head itself is taking a while, so it's not getting as hydrated as it needs to be. So we've got a nice clean cut here. We're going to put that one in the back here. Might even go a little bit shorter. Has got a bit of a kink in the stem, and that would have given me a nice lean on the flower towards the back, but that's not going to happen, so we'll do it this way instead. And just manoeuvre him round till we get it into a position that we're comfortable with. And what we'll do with the leaves is put them in the water as well and bring them back over the back of the container and the basket to hide some of the mechanics underneath. So I will turn that round shortly so you can see. That leaf's been previously eaten, so we won't use that particular one, but we will use these two. And then we've still got our stalk that we're going to make our structure with, which is what we're going to do next. Now, if you had other foliage that you picked from the garden, you could use that in here as well. But it's just to soften it and to fill out that area so we don't have to necessarily look at the container, she said. Trying to think and do things at the same time. So there we have that's what it looks like from the back. We'll fill in a little bit more with some more leaves once we've finished our structure. But let's do the structure first of all. So we'll take off. What I'll just do is take off these at the base of where the leaves are in case I need to use the leaves. It's still going to give me plenty of stem to use. Yes, I saved the one that fell on the ground. Okay, so we've got 3 stems. Different sizes, so we'll put the thinner one in the middle just to make it a bit more interesting. It's going to come out a reasonable distance and rest against those areas where the neck of the bottle would rest normally. So we'll probably use all of that. We want to tidy up the tops so that they're all cut and facing exactly the same way. So we've got one that's already at an angle there. So we'll cut the other 2 to match that angle. But of course what we're also doing is making sure that we've got some cross bracing pieces as well. You wouldn't necessarily have to use the cross bracing pieces as part of the stem. You could just use the toothpicks as the cross bracing because it's still quite attractive. So we're going to have them like that, so they're all facing the same way. Taller one in the middle, just because I like the look of it like that. You could have them all the same size if you wanted to. And then we just join them as we did with that one previously. Using these cross braces, we'll have to even them up so that they're a straight edge and that they're all the same width. Otherwise our structure will look a bit lopsided. Magic. Looks like she's done it before. Look, they're all the same size. Incredible. All right. So very simply, leave these laid down on the surface that you're using just for ease of manipulation. Toothpick through the centre of the cut piece so that you've got a little bit either side, and if they're too long, like this one is, then put 2 toothpicks in so that you've got a little bit to put into and then it's just a matter of, if you think about where you're going to have the steps to your ladder, I like them up a bit higher so people can see them. So we'll have them like that. So this one, keeping the tops where they should be, like the angle of the top where it should be, and the base is even. So that one will hold it in place now so that the others that you place will slot in automatically. So a little bit lower down for that one. Might use the 2. I think when you're first doing it, it's probably easier to use 2 because it doesn't matter if they stick out from the base structure. You can always trim them off, which is what we'll do with this one. Not a whole lot left over. Quite thick, these stems today. If you used a bamboo skewer, obviously you'd only need the one because it would go all the way through nice and comfortably. One more. Now you'll see that I've used 4 here, and we probably need to have one more anchor point just to keep the structure nice and solid. So just bend it a little bit. Take this one out and put him in there. And what I think is that they're too wide. So this is a good example of adjusting on the go. Because I need it to fit into that space there, these cross arms are just a little bit too long for that space. So we will adjust that. So what we've done now is adjusted those internal sizes. It means that we've got a little bit of leftover on the toothpicks, so we'll just cut them off. Now we'll manoeuvre this into our design. So what I want to do is have it over the top of that water source, but secure enough, held by the 2 bits of bamboo here that would hold the neck of the bottle so that it's not going to move. So it's just taking a little bit more adjustment than I had anticipated. As I said, what we want to use is this longer one, as though it's climbing out. So we'll leave some of the foliage there. We don't want too much foliage because we don't want it to be under the water. But we do want to use the other foliage in it just to keep it nice and interesting. A bit daggy that end, tidy it up. Now we've got our last very large flower and some more foliage. So if we look at it, put it up on here so we can turn it around and we can see where it needs some help. So we want a little bit of foliage in here. We've got the opportunity to use the front container to put this particular flower in, and what is going to happen if I do that is it'll fill this space, it'll cover up this gap that we've got in the petals on this other flower, and so it'll look like it's a complete design. So that's what I'm going to do, but I will keep the rest of these leaves to use as filler around the placements that we've got. So you can see with this one, it's a little bit of trial and error. Take your time with it. Have a play with it. Don't be afraid to mix and match and rearrange and change the design if it's not working out the way you would like it to. What I'm going to do, and you'll see in the photos, is that now that I've got a much longer piece, I'm actually going to put that there so that it highlights the fact that that's a lattice or a ladder rather than just the stalks that are hanging out. But I needed the longer piece to be able to do it, so I knew that that was going to happen. So we're going to go placement in our front container here. Still a bit long, so it's going to lose that one as well. Just means we've got another bit of stalk that I can use in the lattice, which I will do for the photos so that you don't have to watch me working with that again. Now, as I've said to you all along, don't have all your flowers facing the same way, so we've got them going all sorts of different ways, so it makes it interesting, gives it depth. We'll tuck in these other leaves into this water here. Don't try and straighten the leaves, make it interesting, give it movement. I'm just trying to feel where the edge of the container is because I can't see it anymore. So there we have our sunflowers in a basket, in a wine bottle container. As you can see, we wouldn't necessarily know that it's a wine bottle container anymore. It just looks like it's a nice little basket. It's got sort of the half handle there. I will, as I said, add those extra pieces of stem so that we've got a little bit of interest here in the gap, the cross bracing to highlight the fact that it is a lattice, not just the stalks hanging out. They will dry and they will gradually change colour and shrink a little bit. That's fine. Same with the sunflowers, they will begin to dry and lose their petals. At that stage, I would pull the petals off and still leave the centre of the flower there in the arrangement and perhaps put some other sort of greenery or something else around it. So you've got something that's long lasting and it just uses those 3 flowers. There we have it for our sunflowers in a basket arrangement. I'm Kim Bailey, this is Floral Art Online and you're watching the Supermarket series.